The floor is yours.
Okay. First of all, thank you very much for inviting me and thank you for joining this session. So I wanted you to write very quickly, how many tests do you make in a semester as a teacher? How many tests do you make for your students? Could you please write on the chat box and tell me just with the number, how many tests do you make in a semester? I don't think I can see the answers yet. Here it is. So if you can answer that question very quick, how many tests do you make in a semester? I would like to. Nobody has answered yet.
I don't see any numbers coming through yet.
Yeah, 1 or 2 maximum every month, 1 or 2. One or two. 2. One more answer. 4. Okay. So why I am asking you about this? So in order to be honest, last year when I was studying my master in TESOL, I started to get very interested in assessment, how to look for authentic assessment in order to assess my ESL students. So I was Googling and I was looking for information and then reading some information, and then suddenly appeared scrapbooks. So I got interested in learning about scrapbooking. I discovered that in the 15th century in Britain, families started to scrapbook their family mementos. They put pictures in blank paper in a book. They started to write ideas about what they felt when in that situation, in that experience, in that trip, in that journey, in that gather together. So I thought that it was interesting, because if after many years they can open a family album, a photo album, I mean, and they can recall those experiences and they can read how they felt when they lived that experience, I said, well, maybe I can use this with my ESL students. And this is the way I started scrapbooking learning. And I'm going to tell you a little bit more about this. Thank you, those people who share 4, 3, 2 maximum. So I'm going to tell you, let me see, what is a scrapbooking? First of all, it's crafting and documenting activity. And it includes adding photos, writing memorabilia, journaling, and decorate pages in order to make it more attractive. So what is the idea of scrapbooking is to remember experiences, to remember through pictures and through the notes we are making about these experiences. So also it was used to collect recipes, quotes, poems, and also to collect stamps and different kind of things. So using this project at school can encourage independent learning by allowing students to work at their own pace. It enhances individual learning styles and helps students to recall after 2 weeks what they have learned, what they felt when they learned that specific content or language, how they can explain in their own words what they were learning, what strategy was useful for them. So I started to present this idea to my students. I said, okay, I'm not going to test you. I want you to tell me how you're learning. What is the activity you found it more interesting, that you like the most? What was the most difficult part? Why you think it was difficult for you? Write it about it. And use magazines and use cutting outs and show me through pictures, through drawings. How did you learn during these 2 weeks? So, sorry, let me see here. So I consider scrapbooking as an authentic assessment. Why? Because first of all, students through this activity can demonstrate their knowledge, what they learned, their skills to write about their learning, strengths, what is the most important thing, how they learned during these 2 weeks. And it is a realistic, authentic manner to know and to gather information from students. So this is a metacognitive activity while they are reflecting on their learning. The way they learn during these 2 weeks is student-centered because every student can think about what was the most important learning for him or for her, right? It's not teacher telling them what to do, it's students telling me what they learned. Students show their learning in different ways through drawings, pictures, words, phrases, etc. It depends on their learning styles because some of them are more visual, some of them are more, they need to be moving, doing things. They learn doing things. So it helps them to be engaged in an activity, which is showing their learning. There are no tests, so no anxiety. So I can gather information from them. I can use that information because it provides me important data to consider when designing next lessons. So if they learned, for example, to make a Venn diagram and they really liked it and they showed me that they learned it, how to compare 2 different things, find differences and similarities, I can use it again. So scrapbooking provides me information. And 2 teachers can use this data in designing future lessons. So I consider scrapbooking as an assessment for learning, not assessment of learning. And what is the difference between these 2 concepts? Assessing of learning is the typical test, the written test. So we ask questions, different items, and students answer showing the knowledge of content and language, but they answer. And we score them. We grade and score them. Assessment for learning shows how students are learning. What are their skills they are developing? What are the strategies that they are more useful for them when they are learning? It shows their learning in a different way. So here, the most important is not the grade they're going to get, but to show the way they are learning. Also, I asked them, how did you feel when you were doing this? So emotions also are included. Chapman and King in 2012 on page 2 stated that differentiated assessment tools are needed to gather information about students because each student is unique in different ways. They have different background knowledge, they have different motivation to learn, they feel differently when they are, for example, performing a role play, or when they are reading silently, or when they are being tested. They have different attitudes towards different topics and subjects. They have different learning styles and modalities and different interests and talents. So when teachers consider this, we can use this information for preparing and designing better, authentic assessment tools. So how to use this scrapbooking strategy as an authentic assessment tool? That is the question. So if you use it as a pre-assessment tool, we can use it, for example, in the beginning of the year in order to know about our students before starting the learning period. So we can ask them, tell me about where you are from. Tell me about your family. Tell me about your life experiences. What do you like doing? So interests and abilities. How much English do you know? Tell me the words you know. What do you expect when you are in this class or when you arrive to the United States? Why you're here? Tell me through pictures with your own words in Spanish, English, the language you use. But tell me about you. So teachers can use this scrapbooking in the beginning of the year to know more about the learners they're going to have. During learning, as a metacognitive activity, so students, while journaling their learning, they can tell me what they're learning, how they're learning, what they need to learn to move forward. So they reflect on the way they're learning. And as a post-assessment tool, students can self-assess their learning, assess the course, assess the teacher, and also set improvement goals. So you can use it as at the end of a content unit, at the end of a quarter, at the end of semester, at the end of the school year. This is a picture I took from one of the scrapbooks activities I did last year at the end of the semester, and then I'm going to show you some examples. So as I am an ELL teacher, I have the ESL 1 and 2 levels. So students write about their learning in their own words. So then you're going to see through the examples that they have different levels of the use of language in context. They know they're learning, and they tell the teacher what they're learning in the last 2 weeks, because I do it after 2 weeks. So here you have some examples of the scrapbooks on paper. So this is a binder. They decorate it, and if you see the pictures, you can see that the cover of the scrapbook tells about the student behind. So if they like, for example, robots, if they like here, Kim showed me that she loves baking cupcakes, or the student playing games on the computer. So we have online scrapbooks and we have on paper. For example, here it's about me. She told me in her own words about her, who she is, where is she from, how she considered, for example, I like to be cheerful, kind, friendly, sociable. My favorite color is purple and blue. In my free time, I like to watch TV, play games, be on my phone, and help my mother with the house chores, for example. Then she described her mom, how important she is. She's kind, hardworking, likes to share with other people. She's very strict. And also when I or my siblings do something that she does not like, she gets angry and take away permissions. So she's telling me about her family, her mother she's describing, but she's using the language to tell me about. For example, there's another person here talking about his father. And here, for example, it was, this is an example of an activity, of a question I asked. Tell me, close your eyes and tell me what it is, one of the most important mementos you remember. And she told me about the time when she was in an affair with her father, and he gave her the teddy bear she has in her hands. And as you can see here, for example, this is ELL 1. This is after the first quarter, and these are newcomers. So they are just learning about introducing yourself, talking about your family, describing family members using at least 3 adjectives. So they are telling me about the mother, the father, and they are using the language we are learning in context. You see, and as they are talking about parent, and father and mother, they use hearts, different colors, and trying to tell me that they are learning, they know what they are talking about. For example, this one I really like is during the Hispanic Heritage Month, I talk about how important it is to preserve our culture, because, and there are 9 elements we can, 9 elements that form, we can talk about culture. So this student, for example, put the culture in the middle, the 9 elements around, and he, in this bubble, in these captions, he gave me examples of his culture, and he's from Colombia. So he said, for example, vallenato, reggaeton, cumbia, salsa, and the typical cumbia when talking about art and drama and music. Or in attitude, he said, we are all very friendly people, very happy people. Or talking about language, they speak Spanish. So the way he used to show me that he was learning about culture was drawing this kind of flower with examples in his own words. He's telling me that he learned about it, about culture, what culture is. This student, for example, just draw the Venn diagram and he used examples we used in class. So he wrote, this is in Spanish, and it says, what I learned that the diagram is called Venn. It is used to differentiate or compare different categories. For example, to make differences and similarities of each category that one prefers. So he said, Spanish is the common element. They are similar between Guatemala and Honduras, and they have different food, they are Christians, here they are Catholic. They have different festivities like Dia del Carnaval, and here the India Olimpida. So they look for different ways to show me they are learning. This one is higher level. This is ESL 3. And we were learning for the Hispanic Heritage Month, we learned about Cesar Chavez. And so they learned through that activity how to write a text with 5 paragraphs. So in this way, she talks about her mother, because we were talking about hardworking people, but she didn't, here she didn't write about her mom, but what the introduction paragraph means. So what is, it is the initial section of a text, the early life. In this paragraph, I have to talk about personal information. Example, she had 3 children. Important facts. In this paragraph, I can talk about important activities of a person's life. For example, she studied, she got married, etc. The conclusion in this paragraph talk about the summary of the text. Here I find the concluding sentence to conclude my own words, everything I wrote in the text. So you see, maybe the English is not perfect, but they are trying to use English to communicate their learning, what they learn about. Here, for example, here this student also picked this, but she put pictures from the magazine to tell me about what she understood of every single paragraph. Here, another student, for example, talk about cause and effect, but through examples. She didn't explain, but she gave me examples, what she learned about, or she understood about what a cause is and what an effect is. And she here explained with her own words too. So here, for example, exams, I really don't make exams. I use choice boards, for example. Students they have 12 different options. So I provide the options, taking in account the contents, the language, the activities, the strategies we learn, but they pick 3 and they have 1 week and a half to show me in different ways how they learned. So for me, it's important they don't feel stressed out because there's an exam. They don't feel anxious because they're not going to show me anything. But if they pick, they use music, they sing while they are working, and they tell me, this is the way I learned. This is for me more important because they feel free to pick what they want, the way they want it, they want to be assessed, and they are achieving the goal of being assessed. If you look at the last examples, for example, here I can show you, this is an online scrapbooking. they had to tell me what they liked the most, what was the hardest thing during the school year, what the strategy they learned in or they liked, what they liked the most, what was the most difficult thing, and what they suggested to improve. So they could pick any topic of these, all of them if they wanted. So for example, what I like the most is the end of the exam ESOL activities called choice boards. Or I learned how to take notes and highlight the cognates, making the diagrams. The harder thing for me is to understand books. For example, in the case of this student, and here I have another one, the strategies that helped me learn more English was listening to teachers, reading a little storybooks, and paying more attention to the teachers, how to underline cognates, how to do reader's theater, and how we repeat the words after Miss Flowers. Flowers is Flores, it's me. And how to talk with one another and with other students and teachers. And the last one I picked because it says what helped me a lot to learn was the support of my teacher. I always felt that if she had not been there, I would not have surpassed myself in the same way. She taught me learning techniques, strategies, and also the activities that made me improve. The activities that helped me learn were the audios and projects, which allowed me to develop to the fullest, as well as reader theater, which helped me to know the pronunciation of many words and that the tone of the words can express feelings, for example. And so at the end of this long journey working with scrapbooking, so my question is always what's next? So first of all, I think that the scrapbooking idea has been very successful among my students, and I feel really happy to use it because first of all, I can collect students' information that is always useful. So that is assessment to collect important data to make important decisions about students' learning. I can identify students' interests, abilities, and learning styles. And that allows me to learn more about the learners I have. I can make a checklist about what activities and type of assessment they most like and why they like the most. Not because they were easier for them, but maybe because it was more attractive. It was the perfect strategy for them. I make a list of differentiated assessment tools that can work better for my students so I can have a battery of activities to assess students in different ways. I can consider the information to prepare next school year's lessons. And I can differentiate instruction more efficiently, keep what worked well, and include other tools too. And as a final reflection, taking Chapman and King's ideas, ongoing assessment provides vital information to improve teaching and learning. The assessment of learning is valuable. However, ongoing assessment for learning is essential. You can find this quote on page 2. And here are the credits. I took photographs, resources from Battle Creek's high school students. Chapman, one of my favorite readers, and Google Images I took on October while looking for scrapbooking. So thank you so much for your attention. I don't have Twitter, but here is my my email address. And if you have any question, I will be happy to answer. And please, please, please connect and let's keep this conversation going in the United We Teach community. So thank you so much for inviting me, and I'm open to answer any question.
Anita, thank you so much. What a treat this was. We so appreciate it. So
Thank you.
I can think of a couple of questions already, but I'm also hoping that some of the teachers on the call also have questions of their own. So feel free. This is super informal,
Mhm.
friendly type of conversation. So feel free to just unmute and just jump in here with your question if you have any. So I'll just give you a few seconds to formulate your question if you have any.
Hi, Anita.
Hi.
I would like to ask you, how much time do you give the students to do these activities? Because it may be a half an hour activity, 45 minutes, or they can take a week to do it.
No. It's one class of 90 minutes. It's one day of class, 90 minutes, because they have to recall information, they have to draw, they have to write. So they have to think of every activity we have learned and the learning of a week, and then they have to pick at least one. So it's one of my, it is in my lesson plan as one activity every 2 months.
And do you
Every
tell
2
them
weeks,
that
every 2 weeks, sorry, every 2
weeks.
weeks.
And do you tell them that they are going to have like scrapbook assessment and they have to bring magazines and color paper and all that, or do you provide all that for them?
I provide everything. So that's why maybe the first pages of the scrapbook were not very beautiful, because I had only line paper, but now I have more resources and I'm adding colorful paper so they feel more engaged to scrapbook. I have magazines, I have everything in the classroom. So I usually inform my students, I tell my students every Monday what we're going to learn during the whole week. So they know what we're going to do on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, they have to scrapbook when they have to. So they are ready to think of what they like the most, and then so they are ready to scrapbook on Friday.
And how do you grade them? Do you put like a grade, or do you have rubrics and you give them feedback?
So different things. First of all, it's every 2 weeks. So in a quarter, we have 5 activities of scrapbooking, right? So I give them 20 points every Friday, they scrapbook. So at the end of the quarter, they have 100 as a grade for the scrapbooking. But what I do, I didn't give you examples here. What I do, I have bibliography cards. So I write personal feedback. And I said, okay, I'm so happy for you because now you know how to write text with 5 paragraphs. So I'm sure you're going to be happy to write paragraphs in biology, in history, because this is the same technique you have to use in every subject, for example. So they collect the cards in their scrapbooking, in their scrapbook. This is so 20 points every time they do the activity, they complete the activity. And then the feedback is a personal feedback according to what they picked, because some of them picked a strategy, others picked to explain very detailed what they learned, and with many pictures, some others draw. So you can give a grade when somebody draw and the other one put wonderful pictures, for example, or someone used a pen and the other were markers, you see, because it's not about beauty.
Do you ask them to explain to the rest of the students what they have done? Like, so they practice orally, or they have to speak in front of everybody. Look, I have done in my scrapbook this and that, and
for example, at the end of the first quarter, like 2 weeks ago, instead of scrapbooking, because it was the week numbers, I mean, it was the 6th time, I said, okay, who would like to share what he or she learned during the first quarter? For example, in a class of 10 students, 5 decided to share orally. So what they do is, this is my scrapbook, and I really liked learning this. I provided language to use, so they use the same language. Like during my first quarter, I really liked learning this. What was the most difficult part was, so I provided the sentence stems to use in front of the class, so to reduce anxiety of not knowing what to say.
And do you publish those scrapbooks anywhere? Because maybe it would be nice to see it in a hall, like everybody's going to see what they have learned. I have seen that they have done beautiful things.
They have them on their desk, so they are there every single day. They are on their desk, and the one which is online, it's Google Sites. So we use Google Sites in the school. So it was used in my school as an example of authentic assessment tool, and because the APs knew about that, they wanted to know more, and then they say, can we share this with the whole community? So the online version last year was shared with the whole community, but the paper ones are on the desk, but they feel really happy when somebody says, where's this? It's my scrapbook. Scrapbook? What are you scrapbooking? What I learned? So, or what I learned. So they are happy to tell anybody when they were asked.
Yeah, because where I work, in the school where I work, I have seen so many nice assignments on the wall. And I really like what your students have done. So it would be a great idea also to publish them. And the students, I think that they are going to feel like motivated because their assignment is going to be seen by other people. They're going to show what they learn, and they're going to be worried because they have done so many beautiful things. So to be seen by other people.
We share everything like posters, banners. For example, with my ESR class in level 4 last year, they learned how to write a narrative text, and they wrote their own stories, story for children. And they drew, they painted, they wrote their own stories, and then we had a storytelling. And that was outside the classroom, so everyone could listen to their beautiful English they were learning, and their own stories. And we shared the stories with the whole community on the wall. But the scrapbook is a binder. So it's a binder that is having lots of pages in different kind of decorations. So at the end of the semester, it's going to be a big, big, big book. What I'm thinking about the end of the year, for example, before the exams in December, that I'm going to prepare, or this is my idea, to prepare like a chart so they can identify how many strategies I learned, how many activities were easy for me, what I liked the most, what was the most difficult one, what I need to improve to go to the next level. So I'm going to use that reflection at the end of the year. As I told you before, more than a grade, the idea is that this is an assessment tool for learning. So it allows students to reflect reflects on the way they are learning. So I changed the questions. For example, what is the activity you like the most? Next question after 2 weeks. What was the most difficult thing during this content or during these 2 weeks? Or how do you feel when you were doing this? So there are different questions because it depends on what I want them to tell me. But I think it's a very successful activity though, and they enjoy and they are ready to scrapbook.
Thank you, Anita.
You're welcome.
There are 2 more questions in the chat. If you would like to unmute yourself and ask the questions live, you're welcome to do that. Or I can read off the questions, or anybody else could jump in with their question.
Hello, Anita. This is Monica. But I think you answered my question. My question was whether you were having a one-to-one conference when students presented their scrapbook, but I think that you already answered that when you're with your chat with Paola. I mean, you gave them a chance to share them with other students if they wanted to, or you would provide feedback through cards, right?
Yeah, it's individual feedback.
Yeah.
And there's a question here, can we do this strategy with great numbers of students? I think there is no limit because this is an individual work. So they, for example, my desks are big and they have, yeah, they are comfortable sitting there, but you can have a bookshelf with the scrapbooks there and you can use it as a routine every week or once a month. It depends on you. In my case, I do it every 2 weeks. So because every 2 weeks, more or less, I'm changing content. So before starting the next part of the unit, for example, or the next subunit, I scrapbook. So I plan for 2 weeks. So I have time enough to assess my students in different ways. The scrapbooking is one way, but there are different ways. We use different kind of assessment tools. For example, they had today my ESL 1, they are 19 students. So they have no issue to do it because everyone works in his or her own scrapbook.
Thank you. Are there any other questions for Anita? All right. Well, thank you, Anita, so much for sharing.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, we learned a lot. Now I will never look at scrapbooking the same again, ever. I will always think about your session now, anytime I hear that word. Thank you very much. I really personally just really appreciated the differentiation you made between assessment for learning and assessment of learning.
Of learning.
That really resonated, and I appreciated that reminder. All right, I will go ahead and share my screen, which means that I will have to stop sharing yours. Do you see my screen now? Okay, thank you. Perfect. So before we wrap up, we'll just move on to a couple of reminders, community reminders, or more like community calls to action. If you are going to take any of the ideas shared by Anita or by anybody else during the session, and if you apply them in your classroom, come back to the community and let us know how that went. We would love to hear from you. So here's a link to the community discussion that we created for language specific type of sharing. If you wouldn't mind, go ahead and click on that link and go ahead and click the subscribe button that is on the top left of that page. So that you can be notified if somebody posts a question or posts an idea or posts a resource and so forth. And of course, you can also use it to let us know if you applied any of these ideas in the classroom. We hope that you will. That is always our main reason for bringing special guests into our sessions that will share ideas that you will be able to take and implement in your classroom. So when you do, we always celebrate that, and we would love to hear back. Also, there are a couple of teachers, one from the Philippines, and I'm not sure about where Ernesto is from, but they are asking to connect with English-speaking classrooms from the United States, but not only. So if you are calling from outside the United States but you're teaching ESL, they would love to connect with your classroom as well. So I'm going to post in the chat a link to the discussion threads that we created specifically for these type of classroom to classroom partnerships. So the one I just posted right now is for 11 to 14-year-olds, and you can use this to respond to any of these teachers who are waiting for a partner. Make sure that when you do respond, you tag them, just like I did here for Ernesto, so that they get notified that that you actually posted that response. And just like with the previous discussion thread, go ahead and subscribe to these ones as well, so that you get notified when other teachers post looking for a classroom. All right, and with that, I'm going to pass it on to Michelle for one other reminder, and then we'll have a little bit of fun with our inspiration, and then we'll close up.
Great, thanks. Well, just very quickly, a reminder that if you have never been featured in the United We Teach Spotlight, we would love to feature you. We call it the new member spotlight because oftentimes people that fill this form out are people who've just joined the community and take our invitation to fill it out. But if you are a member of this community and you have not been featured, we would love to feature you. So we invite you to fill out this Google form, which Anna Maria just dropped the link in the chat for. We would love to feature you on an upcoming Monday. Before we move on to the final wrap up, we just want to spotlight those people who have been featured in the past 4 Mondays. So since the last time we met at the beginning of November, we have had Ezra, Alduver, Danae, and Shanice all featured on the past 4 Mondays. We get to learn a little bit more about where they're from, where they teach, what they teach. You get to learn 4 very interesting facts about them, and then also hear about why they went into education. Why did they want to become a teacher? And a little bit about why they joined this community. So highly encourage you to go check those out. If you have missed them and you want to go back and catch up, you can always go to the feed in the community, the main feed, and scroll down. You'll see them posted as announcements. So we congratulate all of these members for being featured, and we look forward to featuring you sometime soon if you have not been featured already. And with that, those of you that have been around for a long time, you know that we always end with a little bit of something funny or a little bit of inspiration. And today I wanted to share 2 smiles, one child smile and one teacher smile. Although the first one is really a teacher smile too, because can you imagine being this teacher and logging on to this student coming into your remote classroom? I just cracked up. This was not even for Halloween. This was well before Halloween that I first saw this. The kid just really likes his Spider-Man costume, and he was going to be cozy for remote learning. So that cracked me up. I thought it was really funny that his sister posted that on social media to be like, look at my brother. So that was really cute. And then the next one, which is a little TikTok video that I saw on Instagram, I've got the link there. I think Anna Maria will click play for us and we'll have a little giggle with this teacher. So she asked her mother, come get me at school. Her mother says, you're the teacher. And her face and her reaction is very exasperated. I would venture to say that you've probably had days like that too, where you wish somebody would come and pick you up. But that most days, hopefully you are being inspired by your students, love seeing the learning that they are engaging in, love being able to spend your days with them, and that you realize the impact that you're having on them and how much it means that you are there for them every single day. So before we let you log off, we do, because you know me and Twitter, we do need to take our group shot. We're only meeting once a month from now on. So for those of you that have your cameras on, get ready with your Zoom smile. If your camera has been off and you would like to be in our group photo, we invite you to turn your camera on. And on the count of 3, we are going to get ready to do our best Zoom smiles. And then this will be tweeted out after our session with a few other pictures from Anita's presentation. So on the count of 3, best Zoom smiles. 1, 2, 3. Awesome. Well, you'll see that on Twitter later this evening. It will probably not be in the next few minutes because I'm about to jump onto another call with some of our current ambassador teachers who are looking to be a little social and connect with each other and kind of share some experiences and have a little fun together. So I'm heading off to that, but we'll tweet later this evening with your beautiful Zoom smiles. Thank you again, Anita, for sharing your expertise and experiences with us. And thank you all for showing up and learning from Anita. Good night.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank
Thank you,
you.
Anita.
Bye.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
everybody.
Good night.
Bye. Bye.